What is happening, everybody? Wow, what a wild Wednesday, January 15th, 2024, we've got going on so far. There is just breaking news left and right, up, down, and center. We are going to try to bring you guys all of that over the course of the next hour or so. Obviously, we've got the Pam Bondi hearings happening right now in the Senate chambers. Some members of the Senate continuing to make a genuine ass out of themselves. I'm talking to you, Mazie Hirono. But most of the Democratic senators have completely beclowned themselves, and they see absolutely no shame in doing so at all. None whatsoever. Also, we got a ceasefire. We got a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Donald Trump, 5 days away, is ushering in peace in the Middle East yet again. Now, I got to be honest with you. If I'm being totally honest, this seems like a Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan type situation. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Whatever. I don't really care what the reason is. All I know is that it seems as though war has stopped in the Middle East. Thank God. Hopefully the checks can stop flowing as well, and we can start taking care of American citizens. Also, AOC continues to spew her complete and utter nonsense, which she can't seem to stop doing. All day long, she all but cried on the floor of the House of Representatives yesterday as Congress passed a very obvious bill. Keep men out of women's sports. This shouldn't be complicated. But for the illustrious, for the brilliant, for the phenomenal, for the dumbassery that is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, that was just way too much. Jimmy Kimmel also cried while calling all of us scumbags for pointing out the obvious. But not only that, at the end of the show today, second half of the show, we are going to be joined by a really good friend of mine, Heather McIsaacs. She is going to, she's a refugee from California who left following one of the devastating wildfires a number of years ago. And she's going to really break down for you what goes on during these fires, how they happen, how they're handled, and how this one is being mismanaged over and over again. Before we get to that, guys, head on over to LFATV.us. That's LFATV.us. That's your home base, your mothership, landing pad for all things LFATV related. Check out the LFATV store. And while you guys are there, consider becoming monthly donors over at LFATV.us. Let's get this live chat up onto the screen, guys. We can't do this without your help. So head on over to LFATV.us. That's LFATV.us. Wherever you're watching, if you're watching this on X, do me a favor and please repost the video. You guys know how much I appreciate it. Giddy up. Let's go. Someone's putting in documentaries in the Rumble chat. I don't know who you are, but all right. If that's your bag, I guess that's what you do. So, guys, head on over to LFATV.us. It's LFATV.us. We are going to throw it to the Senate floor at the moment as Senator Cory Booker is currently questioning Pam Bondi, so there's no telling what that could lead to. The Senate floor at the moment as Senator Cory Booker is currently questioning Pam Bondi, so there's no telling what that could lead to. The Senate floor at the moment as Senator Cory Booker is currently questioning Pam Bondi, so there's no telling what that could lead to. The Senate floor at the moment as Senator Cory Booker is currently questioning Pam Bondi, so there's no telling what that could lead to. The Senate floor at the moment as Senator Cory Booker is currently questioning Pam Bondi, so there's no telling what that could lead to. The Senate floor at the moment as Senator Cory Booker is currently questioning Pam Bondi, so there's no telling what that could lead to. The Senate floor at the moment as Senator Cory Booker
American history under this administration. And I want to get even more specific. In the last 4 years, this administration has carried out an unprecedented...
Sorry about that, guys. Had to fix something real quick. That's my bad. We're going to throw it back to the Senate floor. Now things ought to be fixed.
disgraceful chapters in the history of the Justice Department and in the history of the FBI. And I hope that you will reverse this and do right by every American citizen, including especially people of faith. Let me give you some specifics. After the Dobbs case was decided by the Supreme Court, over 100 pregnancy care centers and over 300 churches in this country were attacked, vandalized, firebombed. Do you happen to know off the top of your head how many prosecutions Merrick Garland's Justice Department brought in those cases?
I do not, Senator.
It's a stunning number. It's 2. Hundreds of churches, hundreds of pregnancy care centers. And I might just add, these pregnancy care centers, the attacks on them, which were violent, which were gruesome, were egged on and encouraged by rhetoric from members of Congress, including members of this body, who have said that pregnancy care centers aren't real medicine, that they're not real doctors. They have legitimized these attacks. And the same thing was true of churches. And this Justice Department couldn't lift a finger to defend these Americans. But at the same time, they used legislation, a law known as the FACE Act, to prosecute at least 53 different pro-life demonstrators, including people like Mark Houck from Pennsylvania, to whom this Justice Department sent a SWAT team to his door in the early morning hours. He has, I think, 7 children. In the early morning hours, an FBI SWAT team shows up at his door to take him into.
This terrain does not sit silent. It speaks to you, invites all to rise above the clouds to feel the sensation of skiing from the peak. And the only way to experience it is to go beyond. Plan your winter adventure to Whistler Blackcomb today.
Adulthood is complicated. Take energy upgrades. Where do you even start? Introducing the Clean Energy Hubs. Get help with rebates.
Treatment of Americans on the basis of religious faith.
Yes, Senator.
Will you stop the deliberate persecution of pro-life Americans for nothing more than their pro-life beliefs?
Yes, Senator.
Will you ensure that nothing like the Mark Houck case happens again, that Americans do not have SWAT teams arriving on their front doors with armed weapons to terrorize their children and their spouses, only in the end, of course, to have the case lost because there was nothing to it? Will you put an end to that kind of deliberate intimidation of the good American citizens on the basis of their religious beliefs?
Yes, Senator.
I'm glad to hear you say that because we need it. We need it. Ms. Bondi, we need a new chapter at the Justice Department, and we need it quickly. And I'm glad you're committed to it. Now, I also have heard you've been asked about your comment that you thought that in some cases we need to investigate the investigators, the ones who were bad. You know, I have to say I'm glad to hear you stand by that. We need to do that. You need to do that. And I'll give you another example. I'm sure you've read about this memo, which I now hold in my hands, this memo that was developed by the FBI field office in Richmond, Virginia, 23rd January 2023, targeting Catholic parishes for spying, for recruitment of infiltrators. I mean, the memo goes on and on and on about the FBI's plans to put assets into Catholic parishes, into choirs. This is an unbelievable assault on Americans' First Amendment rights, and we only know of it because of a brave whistleblower who came forward and released it to us. And I will tell you, I have never been misled and lied to like I was by the current Attorney General and the now former FBI Director when they sat right where you're sitting now and told this committee, oh, we don't know anything about it. Oh, only one field office was involved. It was the single work of a single field office and a very few individuals. As it turns out, that's not true. Multiple field offices were involved. Multiple individuals were involved. Under your leadership, will you put a stop to the use of FBI or Department of Justice resources to try and recruit informants and spies into Christian churches or any church or house of worship in this country on the basis of nothing more than faith?
Of course, Senator.
Let me just say this. To our knowledge, no one who was involved in the writing and performance, execution of this memo has been disciplined or fired. Will you conduct an investigation like you talked about, Ms. Bondi, that will get to the bottom of abuses like this. And to be clear, this is an outrageous abuse. It is an outrageous abuse. One of the worst abuses of Department of Justice and FBI authority in our history. Will you conduct an investigation to find out who signed off on this, who approved it, who advocated for it within the Department of Justice? Will you open the books on these abuses so that the American people can have confidence in their DOJ?
Senator, and I think what you're talking about is the ultimate weaponization, what we've been discussing all day. If I am confirmed as Attorney General, one of the first things I will do, there'll be many, but I will personally read that memo, and if Mr. Patel is confirmed, discuss it with him right away.
Fantastic. And will you work with this committee and our relevant subcommittees? I'm going to chair a subcommittee called the Crime and Terrorism Committee. We're going to do our own investigation into what happened here at the FBI and the DOJ. Will you work with us as you discover the nature of these abuses, and as you put a stop to them, will you work with us to make sure the American people get all the facts and this never happens again?
And Senator, yes, I look forward to working with you and the Democrats. I would think this is something that we can all agree on both sides, that this should not be happening in the United States of America, and work together on it.
That's fantastic. Let me ask you one other question here in my just few seconds that are remaining. This memo targeting Catholic parishes repeatedly refers to as an expert source a group called the Southern Poverty Law Center. Now, the Southern Poverty Law Center has a long history as an anti-religious group that has repeatedly gone after conservative and religious organizations, called them hate groups, called them sometimes terrorist groups. They're cited in this memo. They once infamously, the SPLC called the Family Research Council a terrorist hate group, and an armed gunman came into their lobby and opened fire. Will you put a stop to the use of the SPLC as an official source for any Department of Justice memorandum or finding?
That will be one of the first things we will look at as well, Senator, and report back to you and the committee.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank
you, Mr.
you.
Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bondi, as you know, the Supreme Court in Trump versus United States held the president has absolute immunity.
And of course, it is so good to hear from Senator Josh Hawley. I want to make sure that we, that you guys were able to get that because, Josh Hawley's been a real fighter in all of this, of course. Over the course of the last several years. Obviously, people of faith have been targeted over the course of the last several years with the DOJ, and we're so happy to see that somebody is actually going to do something about it because I've long said it, and I face criticism on the show for it. I'm not the most religious person in the world. However, having the FBI target houses of faith is one of the most disgusting things I think I've ever seen. As far as free speech goes over the last couple of years. But that wasn't the only Pam Bondi moment of the day. We'll get to a few more of them in just a second. Before we do that, Mike Lindell.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. You know, I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets, sleepwear, dog beds.
Whoa, Charles. Everyone now can get MyPillow products at huge discounts at MyPillow.com. That's right. Now's the time to go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our 3-in-1 sale. We're bringing you exciting new products, overstock specials, and closeout deals you won't find anywhere else. For example, when you buy one of our brand new MyPillow 2.0s, you get another one absolutely free. And with our overstock sale, you save 50% on our luxurious Giza Dream bed sheets. That's as low as $29.99 for the best sheets ever. And with our biggest closeout special, you get our all-season slippers for only $35. Or our sandals and slides for just $25. Quantities are limited, and once they're gone, they're gone.
Guys, head on over to MyPillow.com, promo code LOUD. That's MyPillow.com, promo code LOUD for up to 80% off everything on the website. That's MyPillow.com, promo code LOUD. So, you know what? Let's get that live chat back up there because I got a big announcement for all the local viewers out there. Got a big announcement for all the local viewers out there. If you are looking for something to do on Inauguration Day? Well, I've got news for you. You can come on down to Shanahan's in Kings Park, where we are going to have a huge celebration for the inauguration. That is going to be January 20th at Shanahan's on Old Dock Road in Kings Park. Party starts at 11 o'clock. Come on down. Say hello. We're going to have a huge group of Patriots down there. Special guests, a bunch of elected officials. Very exciting stuff. So if you guys are in the local area, make sure you come on down. Shanahan's 11 o'clock in Kings Park on Old Dock Road. Come down. Say hello. Giddy up. So I'm very excited about what Josh Hawley said at the end of his sentence there about an investigation into the Southern Poverty Law Center, who, of course, has me on their anti-government extremist list, which is a load of bullshit, which is a giant steaming pile of bullshit. I wonder, if I am now an anti-government extremist, in 5 days will I be a pro-government extremist? Probably not, but, that's just the way their cookie crumbles. But nobody will ever hold them accountable. Hopefully, Pam Bondi will do that and get me off of their targeted list. That way, maybe one day I can get a job somewhere. I can't tell you how many jobs I've lost because of that stupid Southern Poverty Law Center list. Hopefully, something can there be rectified about that. We'll see. Here's some more Pam Bondi moments. She really, she did a hell of a job today.
If confirmed, I will do everything in my power, and it will be my great responsibility to make America safe again. Making America safe again also requires reducing recidivism. We have to fix the Bureau of Prisons, and I am looking on both sides of the aisle. The Bureau has suffered from years of mismanagement, lack of funding, and low morale. I was proud to support President Trump's First Step Act. I think more can be implemented and more can be done on that front. President Trump's leadership on criminal justice reform has demonstrated what is possible when a president is unafraid to do things that have been deemed to be too difficult. We have to reach across the aisle and get solutions for all of these problems. Like the president, I believe we are on the cusp of a new golden age where the Department of Justice can and will do better if I am confirmed. Lastly, and most importantly, if confirmed, I will fight every day to restore confidence and integrity to the Department of Justice and each of its components. The partisanship, the weaponization will be gone. America will have one tier of justice for all. In all this work, I'll collaborate closely with this committee. I will work with all of you, as I've committed to do when I met with almost all of you. And I will partner not only with the federal agencies, but with the state and local officials throughout our great country. I look forward to answering your questions today and working together.
Now, Pam Bondi talking about a new golden age in the American justice system. We could use a new golden age in many of our institutions, not only with the implementation of people like Kash Patel and Pam Bondi. We could use an uprooting in the Senate. We could definitely use an uprooting in the Senate. And if you want, we could start with the slightly less drunk than yesterday, but still a little sauced up, Mazie Hirono, who decided she was going to spend her time. Because, guys, Mazie Hirono is a serious person who wants to know serious questions. And she decided to begin her questioning with this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As part of my responsibility to ensure the fitness of all nominees, I ask the following two initial questions. First, since you became a legal adult, have you ever made unwanted requests for sexual favors or committed any verbal or physical harassment or assault of a sexual nature?
No, Senator.
Have you ever faced discipline or entered into a settlement relating to this kind of conduct?
No, Senator.
Could have started any number of ways there, Mazie Hirono. Instead, you decided to ask a woman if she has ever, given unwanted sexual advances towards somebody, first off, and I mean this, no, she did the same thing with Amy Coney Barrett, a Catholic mother of 10. But Mazie Hirono is not only slightly drunk, but also a dumbass. Look, I know, I live in a place that has, we went over it yesterday, a fairly peculiar, fairly drunk, fairly witch-like senator in Kirsten Gillibrand, but Mazie Hirono's got to take the cake. If AOC and Jasmine Crockett are the two stupidest people in the House of Representatives, then I have to say that Mazie Hirono has got to be the dumbest person in the Senate. Before we keep rocking and rolling here today, guys, because I got to get to this AOC clip where apparently there are women dying in the streets. Have you seen this? Have you seen women just casually dying in the streets? I haven't, but apparently AOC has been to a different part of the neighborhood than I have. Before we get to that, guys, head on over to loudmajorityusa.com. That's loudmajorityusa.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out our shop. That is the best way to support this program and everything we've got going on over here, guys. We can't do it without your help. We got some big things coming up. Big things. And we really do appreciate the support. So go to loudmajorityusa.com. Sign up for the newsletter and check out our shop. Also, if you are looking to get involved in local politics, that would be a good way to reach out right there. Loudmajorityusa.com. So yesterday, Nancy Mace passed a bill, which we're going to have Congresswoman Mace on next week, I believe. Once everything settles down. Following the inaugurations and the rest of the swearing-ins and whatnot, we're going to have Congresswoman Mace on the show to talk about it. She passed a bill stopping men from competing in women's sports. Seems like something we shouldn't have had to say out loud, but in today's Democratic Party, you can't take anything for granted because the majority of them are dumber than the person after them. AOC was very upset about this. So much so that she believes this will cause women to die in the streets.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, Madam Ranking Member. Here we are today, Republicans who have voted consistently against the Violence Against Women Act, who have taken away the right of all women to choose and have control over their own body, who, as women are bleeding out in parking lots across the country, standing there, allowing us to die, now want to pretend today that they care about women. And why? To open up gender and, yes, genital examinations into little girls in this country in the so-called name of attacking trans girls. And to that, today, what we have to say are two words: not today. The majority right now says there's no place in this bill that says it opens up for genital examinations. Well, here's the thing. There's no enforcement mechanism in this bill. And when there is no enforcement mechanism, you open the door to every enforcement mechanism. Trans girls are girls. And for all the folks that are so concerned, thank you for your concern about women for the first time that I've seen. I don't know about y'all, I don't know who's been to gym class lately, but girls, even if you only believe in two genders, I've played co-ed sports all the time. But what this also opens the door for is for women to try to perform a very specific kind of femininity.
You mean like the regular kind of femininity? By the way, AOC, you're from New York, I'm from New York. You played co-ed sports all the time. I would love to see you on the court. Let's go. You and me, one-on-one. It's going to be funny shit. Or, better yet, I don't know, why don't you put on some football gear? Let's play lacrosse. Let's see if you can stop my shot, AOC. You can't. To be fair, most people couldn't. But, that's just me bragging a little bit. Most people couldn't. But let's see if you can stop it, AOC. I'm sure I could still hit like 85, 90. Yeah, right. That's hilarious. Not a chance in hell. But, not a chance in hell. But let's see her do it. Yes, AOC, sometimes in gym class you play co-ed kickball. Accurate statement. We all did it. I did it. You did it. Everybody watching did. However, we did not play co-ed wrestling. We did not have co-ed tackle football. We did not have any sort of physical co-ed sport. Maybe you played co-ed basketball, but it's gym class, where anyone who's good enough at sports didn't really do anything. If there's any athletes, any pretty solid high school athletes watching, you know damn well that during gym class you basically sat around and did nothing because you didn't want to get hurt for the sport that mattered. I don't think I'm really talking out of turn here when I say that, but not to AOC. No, 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 no. AOC, along with the majority of the Democratic Party, has got to find the stupidest possible argument for everything in order to make their point about nothing. Let's see, did any of you make a comment about my lacrosse shot? No, good. Good. Don't worry, guys. I cut that short because, I didn't want to make you guys sit through that. Guys, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place. In just a minute, in like 3 minutes, we're going to be joined by Heather McIsaacs. We're going to be talking about the California wildfires and what she saw as a refugee of the state of California as she fled a couple of years ago following one of those unbelievable wildfires. Pretty wild stuff, absolutely wild stuff. Heather is awesome. She's a veteran, and I'm gonna be honest with you, she's one of the biggest badasses I know. Just saying, one of the biggest badasses I know. You guys aren't gonna want to miss that, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Real quick, because I do want to make sure I give you guys all the breaking news of the day. It seems as though a tentative agreement has been reached on the Israel-Gaza situation. Benjamin Netanyahu came out and said that no deal has yet been agreed to. However, there are people lining the streets in both Tel Aviv and in Gaza celebrating what seems like a peace negotiation, a peace deal, a stop to the violence, whatever one may want to call it. And I just want to say, look, I hope it's true. I hope it is true. Obviously, I am on the side of Israel out of the, I'm not saying you got to be pro-Israel, but you definitely have to be anti-terrorist. That's pretty much a requirement of living in America. You have to be anti-terrorist. So I'm happy that this war seems to be over. Can't come fast enough. Can't come fast enough. Guys, in just a second, once again, we're going to be joined by Heather McIsaacs. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place. Giddy up. Let's go, Kevin. And people like the idea. Me and AOC, one-on-one. Let's see how that goes. I don't think it'll go so well for her. Guys, we will be right back. Alrighty, guys, we are back. I'm super excited to introduce you guys to my next guest. She is a refugee from California, now living somewhere with a hell of a lot more freedom, but she has experienced these wildfires firsthand throughout her life in California. Guys, please say hello to my friend Liberty Valkyrie. Heather McIsaac, how are you?
Hi there.
How's it going? Seriously, guys, one of my favorite people in the world. One of my favorite people ever. She got me to go all the way down to Alabama for a concert, even though I have a concert hall down the block. So that just shows you how awesome she is. So, you obviously you are an expat from California, now living in freedom. So I wanted to talk to you about this fire. Why is it? We see these things happen every year in California. Right. There's always see whether it was the Camp Fire or every year this seems to happen around the same time. Why is this fire seem to be so much different? Is it the landscape? Is it the time of year? What exactly are the Santa Ana winds that we keep hearing so much about? Take it away. You know.
Growing up in California, we were always very aware of fire season. We had one, and it was typically late spring, all of summer, sometimes into fall. Now, fire season, since I was a child 30 years ago, seems to be year round. Last time I checked, climate change takes a little bit longer than 30 years to really, instigate its fury. So, that being said, what's different about these wildfires is one, the landscape and the area that they're burning. I believe the average home in the Pacific Palisades is $3.1 million, and thousands of them have gone up in smoke.
Now, when you say 3.1 million, a lot of the people that are there, these are not like I just bought a $3 million house. These are a lot of regular people who either lived there for 50 years or inherited it or bought it when it was 100, and now it just happens to be worth 3.1 million. For my Long Islanders out there, everyone on the South Shore went through this with Hurricane Sandy. They all found out they were living in $1 million houses. They had no idea because when they bought it, it cost them 45 grand because nobody lived there.
Right.
So for the people that are like, oh, it's California, these are millionaires, they'll be fine. A lot of these people aren't. Just because you're real estate rich, but you may not have the physical dollars to rebuild.
But you have to realize, like places like Malibu, it's a beachy town, and its history is being a beachy town, and that doesn't necessarily always attract millionaires, right? It doesn't always attract the celebrities. There are these little boroughs within these beachy towns of regular, everyday people who work normal jobs. They're not millionaires. They're not, driving Maseratis and Bentleys. They have a Camry in the driveway, a pickup truck in the driveway. But it's a different kind of life living out there. And a lot of these homes, even though there are a ton of celebrities who have built into the Pacific Palisades and the more wealthy, a lot of these homes also belong to senior citizens who have put every single thing they had. And part of the reason why they've remained there is because they were aware of what their once humble abode is now worth, and they want to now keep that in the family, so that's their wealth was in their home. So when that goes up in smoke, you lose everything.
Without the insurance, and you were just telling me off camera, a lot of people are mad at the insurance companies. For my viewers, they know that I think that we should take all insurance salesmen and find a very large cliff and work it out ourselves.
Right.
But all these insurance companies that pulled out of this, you were telling me that there's a reason why they actually pulled out. What was that?
Well, the government has a responsibility to do wildfire mitigation, which requires going through, removing dead trees, removing dried brush, removing the leaves and branches that have fallen off existing trees. All of that is a perfect tinder for wildfires. And the other thing that I want to point out, I'm not 100% sure if it's the same in Southern California as it is where I'm from, but they started to ban fireplaces and wood stoves. I grew up in rural California where homes don't have air conditioning, and some of them also don't have heaters. We had a wood stove. That's literally what heated our house. And they are now, I believe they're not allowed to build them anymore. So what does that mean? All of these homes that once used to utilize wood that was cut in the surrounding areas, there's no more cords of wood because they're not needed because they're illegal. So now they're just sitting there and they're not doing anything about it, which the insurance companies, after the Tubbs fire, which I'm very familiar with in 2017, happened in Sonoma and Napa County, many insurance companies started looking at what was going on. And it wasn't a couple years later, mind you, after Gavin had already been in office, run his campaign off the backs of the Tubbs fire, which was the most destructive fire until the Paradise Fire happened in 2018. And he was elected in 2018. Go back on YouTube, look at his campaign videos. All of it was to get to the hearts of people who just lost their homes, who just watched their neighbors lose their homes. And when he wasn't fulfilling his obligations nor his promises, the insurance company said, hey, you guys aren't doing what you are supposed to be doing, and the conditions are getting worse. We can't afford to cover the costs that are going to be associated with potential wildfires. we're going to have to drop people. That was the insurance company's way of saying, do your effing job. And they didn't.
Well, that's it. Is that is so much the Democratic playbook, and you were talking about it a couple days ago. A word that has caused you some bother. The word unprecedented, which which I hadn't even thought of it until you said it. That something can both not happen. Something can not be unprecedented and happen every year at the same time. And that seems to be, this is unprecedented. Nobody saw this coming. But everybody who's from California who has studied this goes, no, bro, this happens every year. And every year you don't seem to do anything about it. And I don't know. It seems like a lot of the fires happen in different places. It's almost like nature is doing the forest management on its own, but if the government would just do the forest management, the fires wouldn't be happening in the first place.
Bingo.
And
And that's
like,
exactly. Oh.
Well, no, keep going.
Yeah, that's my whole point. Is when I hear this term unprecedented, clearly it drives me bonkers. That's an understatement, but it's not unprecedented. Hurricane Katrina, that was unprecedented. The wildfires of Maui, even though they do get fires, what happened there? Unprecedented. What happened in North Carolina in the hurricanes and eastern Tennessee? Unprecedented. This is predicted and this was unprepared for. There was a podcast that Trump was on talking about this, talking about the conversations that he had with Gavin Newsom one-on-one.
Yeah.
And how they can say that this is unprecedented, the only reasoning I believe behind it is the fact that it's their way of dismissing accountability. They don't want to own up to the mistakes that they've made, the mistakes that they've brushed to the side, and the obligations and that they just haven't fulfilled. An easy way of doing that is changing the narrative and saying, well, this is unprecedented. No, it's not.
It's so wild because that's what Democrats do. And so many people have been comparing the hurricanes in Florida to the wildfires in California. And they're like, well, did you blame Governor DeSantis when the hurricanes came by? And everyone goes, no, because you can't stop a hurricane. However, you can, on some level, put out a fire. And if I got to hear the word smelt one more damn time, like I never cared less about a fish in my entire life than I do about the Pacific smelt. Like, it seems like every time they're look over here, so you're not paying attention to what's happening.
Well, and the kicker to the smelt, I'm like 99% sure it's not even native to California.
It's just but that's what Democrats. I said this. I said this the other day. The pressure and the fact that they haven't figured out some way to take the ocean water and pump it directly into the system to be able to utilize it for whatever they need when it comes to these fires.
The military can do it.
Like, it's right there. I posted a picture. I'll try to find it for the viewers. And it was like, fire, water, figure it out. Like, to me, it's incompetence at the highest level, because Democrats focus on all the surface level things, but they never focus on the infrastructure. There is nothing sexy about making a campaign commercial that says, I'm Gavin Newsom, and today we're raking the forest. Like, that's not sexy, but Gavin Newsom coming out and saying, well, next year we got the Olympics, the Super Bowl, and the World Cup. We'll be fine, everyone. And I'm like, bro, you can't figure out how a fire hydrant works.
Well, and that's the other thing is when they were like, oh, well, this is unprecedented. The fire hydrants didn't work. Weird, because in 2017, my friends were using pool water to extinguish the flames. Mm-hmm. They were having the same issue. And here's the deal is they have tankers. I can't remember what it's called. Maybe it's called a fire engine tanker that holds, I believe, up to 300,000 or 300,000 gallons, 30,000 gallons. It's a large number. And those are normally filled up because it is not rare for a fire like this to overload the system, because water needs pressure to move. And when you are pulling that amount of water to extinguish these flames in multiple areas, yes, it is going to put a stress on it. But we've known about this. And the other thing with California is there's a lot of mountains, there's a lot of hills, and they had a ton of rainwater. I think, what was it, in 2022, the atmospheric storm, the river. Why aren't they setting up water collection points in these places that is above the population in order to facilitate downward gravity for water towers for fires? That costs next to nothing in the scheme of things. All you have to do is construct a water tower, let the rain fill it up, and that's it. You don't have to maintain it. You don't have to do anything. It doesn't need to be potable. But these are the types of things that they don't want to do because they want to instead spend their money on drag queen story hour for elementary school students. And then back in, I believe it was June of 2023, Gavin Newsom had the audacity to say his tax dollars from his constituents subsidize the red states who have lower taxes.
Yeah.
But now the entire country is subsidizing Gavin Newsom's mistake.
You know, and just speaking of Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass, it's like we live in a world now where there is no accountability for anything. I use the sports analogy all the time. You know, an NFL coach, he's probably trying really hard. But if his team sucks, he gets replaced.
Right.
If you screw up, you get replaced. There was I forgot who it was. I was watching it the other night. I was watching Black Hawk Down. And apparently right after that issue in Mogadishu, whoever the commanding officer was there, like almost immediately afterwards, retired. And he's like, I take responsibility, I'm out. And it's like, yeah, right, because you didn't do anything wrong, but there was a failure.
Yes.
And whether it is Gavin Newsom in California, whether it's General Milley in Afghanistan, whether it is any person, whether it is the head of the Secret Service who let the president get shot in the face, nobody ever goes, look, I'm not accepting blame, I'm accepting responsibility.
Correct.
And if people did that a little bit more, I think they'd go, okay, you know what? Like, somebody felt like, I don't want to say somebody is to blame, but somebody is responsible for what happened. And it's not going to be Karen Bass. It's certainly not going to be Gavin Newsom, because he has to run for president in a couple of years.
Well, and I, quite frankly, I'm really hoping at this point that's a pipe dream, because I think we all saw, the running joke was Kamala's going to California our country. And I think we can see, based off of how California's been smoke and mirrors for a very long time. A lot of these issues aren't new. But the difference is now these environmentalists able to get their agenda pushed through because they have the funding from the tech giants in Silicon Valley. And before, they were more of a nuisance. Like you've heard this story, but 30 years ago, my dad, who was a heavy equipment operator in charge of maintaining the roads where we lived, during fire season, you would mow the vegetation that grew, the dried weeds along the highway, the overgrown grass. My dad wasn't able to mow those because of the fact that environmentalists put in a claim that there might be frog habitats in those weeds. And so those same weeds happen to line hills filled with crops and feed that the ranchers are growing for their cattle. Come to find out, after the county had to put up the money to show there were no frogs, the environmentalists didn't have to pay for it. My not at the time, California tax dollars had to pay to disprove it just to get the roads mowed for fire season.
Oh,
this was 30 years ago. I mean, now fast forward, you have all these other people that are willing to fund this nonsense, and it's not looking good.
It's so bad. I tell the story all the time up here. There's a rather seedy adult entertainment establishment on one of our main roads up here, and the town bought the building. And then the environmentalists said they weren't allowed to take the building down because it might impact headwaters on a river that no one has ever been in before. And now there's just like, locally they had to turn it into like a welcome center. But I was sitting here and I was like, environmentalists are what's wrong with this country. I know ZBM, you're watching up there in Idaho. How's it going up there with the gray wolf when they decided to just release an apex predator into a living area and think nothing would go wrong. Like, it just, to me, California is a microcosm of what happens when you let the craziest person in every room make the rules. Like, Bill Maher did a bit a couple years ago about how a guy spent $4 million to build 2 public toilets in San Francisco because of all the permitting and the environmental reviews and all that crap that he had to go through. And you're sitting there going, why would anybody do this? Why would anybody go through the trouble of trying to make basic improvements for where they live when it's going to take them 5 years to build a toilet?
There's that, but then you also will see these subdevelopments go up in a flash. In a flash. And 2 years ago, California was complaining climate change, weather, it's flooding. It's like, well, yeah, you guys built up all the areas where the water's supposed to go. You guys built homes on the Russian River that we know floods every freaking year. You know, like, none of this is new. But the problem is they're changing the landscape to line their pockets with developers. But in terms of doing the real infrastructure where it's needed, it's crickets.
It's out of control. You know, it's just, and it's such a shame because whether it's these fires or it's North Carolina or it's Maui, people are going to move on. There's going to be something new in a week. And a lot of people are going to be left with absolutely nothing. I mean, I was reading the other day, FEMA just started denying hotel claims for people living in Western North Carolina, where, don't worry, it's only 14 degrees tonight, so it's not too chilly. But I think that is the difference between what we're seeing bubble up here on the political right with this sort of populism wave we're seeing. Because the traditional conservative would say the government has no place in doing that and, you know, free markets and blah, 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 where I'm sitting here going, what the hell is the point of having a government unless they're going to come in and fix something that is no fault of your own? That, like, East Palestine. Look, guys, we're going to buy your house for market value. Here's $250. Go move. You know, like, what is the point of having this bloated bureaucracy if it's not going to help people that actually are banged up? I mean, we still have neighborhoods here in North Jersey and Long Island that didn't recover from Hurricane Sandy. That was almost 15 years ago.
Talk about Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans. We drove through there not too long ago. It's about a 3-hour drive from us, and it was like still.
There's wards that are like ghost towns.
It's horrific. But the other thing too that isn't talked about a lot with wildfires, after the Paradise fires happened, what people don't realize is when they are dropping that red fire retardant, that's pure carcinogen. That's pure cancer-causing material. And what it does is you then drop it in these forests of these precious things, livelihood habitats that you're trying to save, because now you got to put out the fire. That retardant is going to screw over that area for any sort of vegetation, any sort of wildlife, because it causes cancer. And then the rains come, and now it goes into your water supply. And not only that, when all these fires are burning, it's melting plastic, it's melting insulation. After the Paradise fires of 2018, Butte County is now the 3rd highest for cancer rates in the country. Because when you build down neighborhoods, when you burn down, all that's left is ashes that are filled with cancer-causing agents that are getting into your waters, they're getting into your soil, and they're going to pollute the wildlife that you're supposedly trying to protect, as well as the communities of the people that live there or live downstream from it. That's another huge thing that people aren't talking about.
Oh, yeah, and like we were saying the other night in an X space, and this is why I'm telling all of you watching to get on X. I think Heather got a phone call real quick. That's usually how that goes. She'll be back here in a second. But that's why I tell you guys to get it all on X, because we were talking about this stuff as it was going. But Let's wait for her to come back in. Once again, we're with Heather McIsaac. She goes by Liberty Valkyrie on X. I think she's popping back in now. We will see. But even if we were to give these people the best of intentions when it comes to that red dye crap that they're dumping out of those planes, even if we were to give them the best of intentions on it, no one has any idea what the long-term effects of this stuff is going to be until weird cancers start to show up over. Oh, there we go. She's back. There we go. We were just talking about. Hey, no, it happens. We were just talking about what we were talking about in the X space the other day, which is why everyone should get on X and everyone should follow Liberty Valkyrie on X. One of my favorite people in the world. Once again, with Heather McIsaac. Even if we were to give them the benefit of the doubt on this stuff, nobody has any idea what this is going to do 5, 10, 20, 30 years down the road. You know, the weirdo cancers it's going to cause or seeping into the groundwater. Right now, it's just about putting out the fire. But
Yes.
30 years from now, if people start getting birth defects or weirdo thyroid cancers, maybe they didn't have to get that if the fire would have just been controlled in the first place.
Exactly. And that's the problem is they try to be these virtue signaling heroes and we're going to do this and we're going to do this. But at the end of the day, if you're not complying with the precautions that are needed to mitigate these fires, ultimately this wildlife that you're saving is going to die from the fire. They're going to die from the contaminated water to put out the fire, or they're going to die from the contaminants that caused cancer. And another point that I want to bring up is the fact that California is very big on, acknowledging the fact that this land used to belong to the Native Americans. It's a very, very
Sonny
point of contention
Hostin,
there.
Sonny
But what I-
Hostin yesterday said, well, this is stolen land anyway. I almost
but what I
threw
wanna
my phone at
say-
the TV.
in the area that I grew up in, we had the Miwoks, and that we learned in fourth grade state history. Miwoks was a big part of that. They did controlled burns before any of us were even here hundreds of years ago. The Miwok Indians and native tribes knew that they needed to do controlled burns and clean up the forests for their own safety. It was just part of it. That's part of nature. If you want a sustainable forest, you can't let it get littered even with nature's leaves and twigs and branches, because eventually it dries out in a state that's prone to droughts. It's not humid like where I live in Florida, and so you have a dry climate with tinder just sitting, waiting. And the problem is this isn't just LA. Any part of California that has a forest, this could happen tomorrow in another part of the state.
And it's such a shame because, look, California gets such a bad rap for all the crazy Democrats and the homeless people and the crime in LA and the homeless people in San Francisco and the heroin. But, man, there are some parts of California that is just, it's like the most beautiful place.
Yeah.
That's ever. You go up to the Redwoods, you go to Pacific Beach in San Diego. That is my favorite place on the planet. Some people like Disney. Some people, no, Pacific Beach is
I'm a
the
Tahoe fan myself,
well,
which just went through a wildfire themselves not too long ago.
Last time I was in Pacific Beach, I couldn't get over the fact everyone there is good looking. The homeless people are good looking. The ugly people are good. Everybody there, I was like, what the hell is in the water out here? But when it's 75 degrees on Christmas, I guess that
Right.
that makes things a little bit more livable. It's such a shame because it could be so great if it was just managed, even half-assed. But Karen Bass, who was useless in Congress and now is a useless mayor, helped to destroy one of the greatest cities in the world.
Yeah.
It's such a shame.
The one thing that I want to say, I do see a lot of people saying, California voted for this. No, they didn't. Californians voted for a lot of things. Having their state burned to the ground when the governor that they elected promised to mitigate it, They were lied to. And that's the only time I'm really going to defend Californians, is because Newsom really did hone in on the hearts and the minds of the people that were affected by the 2 fires that ravaged the state during his campaign. He made promises, he didn't keep them. And so it's our job now to resurrect his campaign and show everybody that he really didn't do what he said he was going to do. And it's costed the state tremendously, which is going to in turn cost every single tax-paying American, because we're going to be footing the bill for the next 180 days minimum.
You know, and it's, I've said it before and I'll say it again. If anybody on the ground there starts that recall Newsom, recall Karen Bass initiative, my big ass is going to be riding in an aisle seat out to the left coast. And I'll get my Compton hat on. It'll be great. Well,
Let's hope it's in June, because I'm already going to be in California.
right,
So
well,
we can just make a party of it.
that'll work. Heather McGuire, thank you so much for joining us, guys. Heather, where can everybody find you? Because you need to be followed by more people, because you're awesome.
Thank you, Kev. I am on X at Liberty Valkyrie. I'm also on TikTok at the same Liberty Valkyrie. I do not have an X. I do not have any platforms on Meta, because Meta sucks.
Meta sucks. But, Mark, baby, you want to come back around. Start by not shadow banning the Loud Majority page. That would be a great place to start, my friend. If you wanted to show your libertarian bona fides. Heather, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Kevin. Thanks for spotlighting this. It's important that people hear this.
Anytime. You're welcome on whenever. Alrighty, guys. We will be right back.